Hi, this is Aaron Wilson. Someone that's very happy about the developments this week has to be Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud. I'm talking about the mega deal for the former Mr. Irrelevant, the San Francisco 49ers, quarterback Brock Purdy. So he gets a 5-year, $265 million contract, and that's $181 million guaranteed. And so he's now tied for 7th on the quarterback chart for the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. So he makes $53 million a year, as does Jared Goff from the Detroit Lions, and $100,000 more than those per year, $53.1 million. The 6th ranked quarterback in terms of average annual compensation is Tua Tagovailoa from the Miami Dolphins. And then there's a little bit of a jump to the Trevor Lawrences at $55 million, Josh Allen $55 million, Jordan Love $55 million, Joe Burrow $55 million, and Dak Prescott $60 million. And of course, who's underpaid? Lamar Jackson $52 million, but that's what happens with quarterback deals, cornerback deals, pass rusher deals, even nickel deals. For only 3 days, Jalen Petrie was the highest paid nickel in the NFL with a 3-year, $42 million deal, and now it's been topped by Kyler Gordon of the Chicago Bears. And of course, someone else will beat Derek Stingley Jr.'s $30 million average in new money on a 3-year, $90 million extension. And you look at all these contracts, they're all comparable. It's very similar. It's akin to real estate, checking the comps. So you live in a high rent district, you live in an expensive neighborhood, everyone's keeping up with what are the neighbors selling their house for, what are they listed for, that kind of thing. And then if you're like me and you live in an apartment, you have that to worry about. It must be a nice problem to have. I do live in River Oaks, but not one of those mega mansions. I live not far from the Jim Cranes and the Cal McNairs and some of the other famous residents in this neighborhood. But a great neighborhood, love living here. And just my little real estate comp to quarterback deals. So here's why I think that C.J. Stroud, who will not be eligible for a new contract until after this year, along with Will Anderson Jr., I think he could really cash in. And to me, the sweet spot for him is beating the deals for Jared Goff, Brock Purdy, and Tua Tagovailoa, and at least getting into the top 5. So that means being in like the $55 million range, if not more. And do I necessarily think like, oh, well, CJ's done more than Joe Burrow? No, he hasn't. But that doesn't mean that he can't be paid that way because of inflation, because of market forces, and the negotiating skills of David Mullighetto, of course, did the Derek Stingley Jr. contract and has done a fully guaranteed $230 million deal in the past for Deshaun Watson. Don't see the Texans fully guaranteeing a deal, but I think a lot of it will be guaranteed. And, of course, Dak Prescott at the top of the quarterback charts with $60 million. So you look at the pantheon of quarterback contracts, and, C.J. Stroud certainly belongs. He's been an NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. He is definitely better than Jared Goff. He's been better than Justin Herbert in the playoffs, who's at $52.5 million. And, we've seen him go head-to-head with Tua and win. We've seen him beat Josh Allen, who's obviously the MVP, and maybe he's underpaid too. But I'm not his agent. I don't get any commission on these things. But it's just my opinion about the contracts, where they stand, and C.J. Stroud's place in the NFL quarterback marketplace. So this is a high stakes and a highly expensive arms race. So for the guys who are actually good at throwing this thing, not like me, former walk-on linebacker at East Carolina, that has got a bad shoulder, doesn't throw the football particularly well, doesn't have very big hands like these guys, can't deliver it, can't throw the pill. But for the guys that do it, they make big money, and they make big money for a reason. It's the most important position on the football field, and arguably the most important position in professional sports, quarterbacks. So a lot goes into these deals, and they're very rarely hometown discounts. And I'm not expecting one on this. I expect it to cost a lot. But the Texans feel really comfortable. A conversation I had with Cal McNair and Hannah McNair about C.J. Stroud and how they feel about him. and they feel great about him as their franchise quarterback. They like his leadership, they like his character, they like his work ethic, they like the way he's performed. I know he took a little bit of a step back last season, but he didn't get very good blocking, and he still handled it fairly well and led the team to another division title. You got to kind of bottom line it when it comes to C.J. Stroud. And look at, if you want to talk about, well, what about Purdy? Well, with Purdy and everything that happened with him last year, yes, he's been to a Super Bowl, and yes, he's fourth in quarterback rating since becoming the starter in 2022, and he's third in passing yards, 9,452 yards. First in yards per pass attempt, 8.9 yards. Seventh in touchdown passes with 64 of them. But, he's saving the 49ers after they traded up to draft Trey Lance, and Trey has not been good. So they really benefited from having Brock Purdy under this really inexpensive rookie deal. It was the last pick of the draft. And so now the rookie deal that averaged $853,333 per season has become this $53 million deal per year, $181 million of it guaranteed. So we're anticipate, C.J. Stroud, I think he's going to be someone that perhaps has $200 million guaranteed, depending on how many years they do on the contract. And they'll obviously everybody wants to get back to the table, but Purdy's numbers fell off a little bit last year, playing without Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk last year for a long time, and struggled in bad weather games. And he had a 23rd touchdown to interception ratio ranking in the NFL. So just like CJ, he had a tough year, but they're still taking the long view, the 49ers, when it comes to his compensation. The Texans will do the same thing. They'll look at CJ and about how hard it is to find a franchise quarterback with CJ's abilities, skills, knowledge, intellect, how I believe he's going to mesh this year with Nick Caley. I think they would more than happily pay the money. I don't see C.J. Stroud backsliding. I see C.J. Stroud ascending. I think he's going to play even better football, perhaps better than he did as a rookie, with a better offensive coordinator, with better offensive line play, and a receiving core headlined by Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel. If they can get more out of the tight end position with Dalton Schultz, this could be another Pro Bowl year for C.J. Stroud. And then that $53 million, that's going to look inexpensive if the Texans could stay closer to that number. My prediction, he comes in somewhere between $56 million and $58 million annually. I don't know if he's going to get to the $60 million mark, but I think he's going to beat the $55 million mark. We'll see a year from now if I'm right. And obviously, a lot of things have to happen to get to that point. It's really easy for me to talk about the contracts. It's for Nick Caserio and David Mulligetta to negotiate this contract. But I have a lot of faith in both men and their ability to navigate complicated situations. And I don't know if it's that complicated with CJ other than the amount of money and what it will take. And, of course, the fact that Nick has two big contracts potentially to negotiate. Will Anderson Jr., but when you talk about defensive end deals, that's actually the easier part of the equation. You get him somewhere over $30 million a year as one of the highest paid defensive ends, and you call it a day. But this quarterback deal is nearly twice that. That's because it's the top spot. That's why people really stake their reputations and why it's such a big deal to get it right at the quarterback position. And the Texans have. And there were a lot of people involved in that, including recommendations from other head coaches. Heard Kyle Shanahan had some nice things to say about C.J. Stroud when D'Amico Ryan sought some advice. I've heard about the McNairs definitely wanting a quarterback. And I've heard about Nick Caserio and the whole personnel department getting on board after initially they liked Bryce Young. Obviously seeing they weren't going to get Bryce Young after that Davis Mills win he engineered over the Colts and having the second pick of the draft, not the first. And they figured it all out. They were able to get CJ. They were able to get Will Anderson Jr. And the rest is history. They've had an offensive rookie of the year, a defensive rookie of the year in that first season. And now both players are firmly established, heading into their third NFL season, and under the rules, eligible for new contracts after this year. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about follow the money, as they would say in journalism, is a good place to start. So you look at the contracts, the big picture decisions, all those things that go into it. And, if you think, well, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but think about all the talk there will be about CJ's contract. How are talks going? What's going to happen? When is the deal going to happen? How big is it going to be? And we're just kind of, like I like to look ahead, because it's a lot better to think about the future than just for me to recap what's already happened or to, tell you, well, this is just next. I like to think about the big picture. And, for a lot of you all, you're very smart, all these fans, everyone that likes, subscribes to the channel, your comments, and yeah, let's see what you think. Where does the deal wind up? We'll see in a year from now who is right. My range, I said between $56 million and $58 million. I think he beats the $55 million mark with some change to go. And the Texans, like I said, they'd be happy to pay that money, especially if CJ has a great season. So it's all within his control and his grasp to engineer the big contract. I got my Celsius here. So I want to stay sharp, stay awake, like drinking these. Celsius, if you're out there, if you want to sponsor this channel, you know how to get in touch with me. You know where I'm at. My DMs are open. So I look forward to maybe hearing from you guys from Celsius. I'm going to enjoy this. Watch this. That's good. It tastes good. This is the grape flavor. I like the orange flavor too. Send me some product. Send me some shirts. Celsius. Let's see. Shameless begging there for a sponsor. And hey, if there are other sponsors out there, you want to get on board with this channel, we've had some other sponsors before. Pure Drip Spa. And we're still friends with those guys and had a good run with them. And we get some other people that have been interested, expressed interest before. So yeah, let me know. I'm not hard to find. But excited about what's going on with the channel. We're over 7,000 subscribers now. We're a fast growing channel. We think they made some improvements, continuing to work on it to get as good as possible as this new thing that started in October and is continuing to grow. So look for coverage of the organized team activities, the mini camp, and some off-season workouts that the players go to, and just continue to give you my takes, my updates on the important developments. So we've talked about the schedule. We are now talking about CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy, and the impact on the quarterback marketplace with a real solid deal negotiated by Range Sports and Kyle Strongen. And now David Mulligetta is on deck, and there's not going to be a lot of other quarterback deals. Maybe Baker Mayfield goes back to the table next year, but I think he will. But I think CJ Stroud is going to be one of the top 5 highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. And I think it's a deal that Cal McNair, Nick Cassero, D'Amico Ryans, everyone involved will be happy to sign off on. So we'll see. Check back in a year. Here we are in May. I bet it's done by then that they have a CJ Stroud contract and him as their quarterback for years and years to come. Good situation to be in. The last thing you want to be when it comes to an NFL team is a team without a quarterback. So those are teams that can't win. It's a quarterback league, and CJ Stroud is an outstanding quarterback. Is he the best quarterback in the NFL? No, he's not. But he's very, very good, and very, very good can not just win you games, it can win you playoff games, and it can win you championships. Plural. Championships. Good thought to have. And for Texans fans, yeah, you're in a good position. You've got a quarterback, and you got a quarterback that really there's a lot to be proud of with CJ. CJ is a outstanding overall quarterback, person, good in the community, and someone that they can count on. And that's what you're looking for. You just want to have stability under center and some arm talent, and he's got mobility. He's got a lot of things working in his favor, and that's why I believe he'll be more than deserving of a new contract. And let's stay tuned. Thanks, guys. Please follow me on Twitter and X at @AaronWilson_NFL, Instagram AaronWilson7128, and follow along at www.click2houston.com, which is of course free, and at KPRC2. And I'll be on tonight with Ron Ugly and with Randy McElvoy talking more about the schedule, and I look forward to our next conversation. Thanks, bye.